think we'll get underway if that's okay with everyone. So thank you for joining me Friday afternoon, 2:30, and we decided to put out a quick webinar for some of our clients and also some of possible future clients about the 5 mistakes to avoid in selling your property in the market right now. Obviously, COVID-19 pandemic has been a big thing for many people over the last 10 weeks, from working from home to being in lockdown, and some people obviously still are in lockdown. We as an industry were allowed to get back into the offices from the 13th with restrictions lifted on things like doing viewings. And we found that obviously a lot of homeowners are now considering a move. They might not have been considering it at the beginning of the year, but 6 to 8 weeks of living at home in the same 4 walls has made them start to think about it. So a very short presentation webinar, and if you didn't join us at the very beginning, this is being recorded, and also there's a Q&A section at the end. So if you do have any questions, I've got my laptop next to me and I'm going to be more than happy to share anything there. So I'll just work my way through now these slides, and I hope this all works. So first mistake to avoid is focusing on the inside. Actually, Rightmove have done a consumer survey to find out from the new clients that are now looking on Rightmove what they're looking for in their next property. And it might not surprise you that the rear garden or outside space is a priority. 39% of those surveys have now said that the outside space is the priority. Now, don't worry, if you're in an apartment, that's not the end of the world, because another close second was the amenity space nearby. So green space near to the property. So your agent will need to make sure that they make a real feature of these items. And the reason we want you to know that it's a mistake not to avoid is you need to make your garden really look the best it can. So paint the fence, clear the weeds, get the patio sprayed, get everything to the tip-top condition you can, get that garden cut, get the flower bed sorted, because right now people are thinking about how they're going to be able to spend time in the outside space. If you've been working from home, as many of we were for 8 weeks, you would have needed that downtime. You needed to put the laptop away every now and then and go and sit outside. And that, I think, is why the garden is a real importance now for people searching. So 39% say the priority is now changed. They want a bigger garden. They want a bigger home, which obviously you may be joining us today because you're also going through these same thought processes. They want access to parking or garage. They want better home workspace. That's something that probably a lot of people have worked out, that dining table is not suitable. If they are going to be able to work from home a little bit more with their vocation, then they may want an actual space that they can go and have as their own. And as I said, green space nearby, that is a real priority. So I'm not saying that you can change that with your property, but make a feature of it. Make sure the agent knows what the local green spaces are, and they will probably make a feature of that in the description of the property and also in the photos that they use. So don't focus on the inside. When you do come to sell your property, I'm obviously pointing out the things to avoid, but I'm also going to point out some things to remember as well. When you do come to selling your property, try and do the best you can to neutralize everything. Okay, very simple. You may think it's basic, but even down to the bedspread, you know, it's not worth it. It might even be worth going out and spending a few pounds on a white duvet cover, white pillows, very neutral colors. This will come in very handy for the photography, but also for some of the viewings. If you can depersonalize properties, it makes it easier for an applicant to visualize themselves living there. So that's why we are recommending to some of our clients, set the dining table, you know, get some crockery out, get the plates out as well. Make the property look as if the buyer's about to move in and drop their furniture and live there themselves. Try and get those points across. Another thing to avoid, and we hear it very often, is this part where people say, can I try it at that price? I'd like to try at that price first, then I'll drop afterwards. Now, the reason we recommend not to do this is because your first week or first 2 weeks in marketing are crucial. They're typically the point at which we find most viewings take place. And whilst we as an agent, we do listen to you, obviously you are a vendor, you're our client, we will give you our advice, but we will listen to you. We have found on occasion going on too high has done a lasting damage. Right now with the COVID-19 pandemic, the market is really moving at a swift rate of knots. There isn't many instructions, and I'll talk about this a little later on a couple more points. But you don't want to be in a process where you're saying, let's try it at that higher price first and I'll drop it in two weeks' time. If things change in the market in 2 weeks' time, you could have missed your opportunity to get a sale agreed. So we really do recommend that you take the advice of the agent. They would have looked at comparable properties. Their endeavours are to try and achieve you the best possible price, but they're trying to price you at a marketing point that's going to get you the most number of eyes through looking at the property via live stream or actually physical viewings, and they're trying to drive up that figure. Most agents will now start to do an offers over asking price, and that's something that we tend to find works very well as well, because you're not stipulating the figure that a purchaser must pay. Quite opposite, really. If a buyer wants to buy the property and another purchaser wants to buy the property, through competitive interest, you'll find that you'll achieve above the asking price, and that's something that we found works really, really well. Moving on. So again, this is regarding pricing strategy. Some people feel that they want to put their house on the market at 169,950 or 169,999. Now, we recommend actually you round that figure up. So don't do the 99p instead of a pound thing. Of course, the reason people do that, shops do that, is because they want to make the price seem attractive. We actually need to use the portals to our advantage. So search criteria for an applicant will be, when they go onto a portal, they'll put in the search price range. They'll put in a figure between 150 to 170. Now, if you're on the market at 169,950, you are going to appear in that search category. You're going to appear in the search category between 150 to 170. However, if we have a buyer that's registered onto the portals looking for a property between 170 to 190, your property is not going to be seen. So we're recommending to our clients to actually market it on the thousands as opposed to underneath the thousand. So if you put your property on the market at 170, you're going to appear in the 150 to 170 bracket at the top, and you're also going to appear in the 170 to 190 bracket at the bottom. So there's a quick tip. So don't go for the 99p instead of a pound. Don't go for 950 at the end. Don't go for 999 at the end. Try and get yourself onto a rounded up number. And you can do this looking at the portals yourself. If you're in the price category 300 and above, they don't go in £10,000 increments then. They actually go in £25,000 increments. And as you go up above 600, I believe they change to £50,000 increments. You need to be aware of this with your pricing strategy. Again, any agent that's out there, I'm sure, will help you with this advice and give you this tip, but it's just something to bear in mind. Putting it off, the chicken and egg scenario. What is the best way to do it? Do I find first, or do I put my property on the market? Now, I think actually at the moment, because there's such a shortage of stock, you would be taking good advantage of this market. You've got a lot of buyers. There's pent-up demand. You've probably heard agents mention that word. Pent-up demand seems to be the word of the season at the moment. But there is a real pent-up demand. 8 weeks of living at home and working from home has meant a lot of people that even weren't thinking of moving this year are now considering it. Put that alongside things like low interest rates, and actually you've got a supply and demand issue now. We've got very low inventory, low number of stock properties on the market at the moment. And if you're one of the people that do put your house on the market, you're going to be taking advantage of that. We've actually had to do a new process to our sales, which is bringing in a live stream scenario. So because we know there's probably 5 or 10 people that want to view the property comes to the market, what we're doing first after 3 days of launch is we're carrying out a live stream on our homes. That gets all of those people to be able to view that property. So going back to my point about putting it off, COVID-19 obviously is a very real problem at the moment for people, and right now we don't know what the financial impact is going to be. There's a report that came out today to say that GDP was down 5%, down by 20.3%. They're down by a fifth. I mean, that's expected. They can't really comment about what's happened to the property market yet because it's cyclical. We need to see what happens in 3 months' time to look back at what's gone on. Right now we know there's a high demand for properties, but we don't really know what the impact has been with COVID-19 until 3 months' time. If you're planning on putting your property move off until 3 months' time, you might find the market's in a turning position then. So I would recommend to you, take advantage of what is a very strong market at the moment and get your property on the market and start getting the viewings in on your property. This coincides, however, with my next slide, which is waiting to find first. And I completely get it. Everyone's going to be in the same boat. I'm telling you, there's lack of stock out there. It will be the same for you. I appreciate there might not be the next property you want to purchase right now. However, we are finding more properties coming to the market. So you want to get yourself in a strong position in case that property that you do fall in love with is available. If right now you do the opposite and you choose to wait for the right one to come on the market, go and view it, fall in love with it, then put your property on the market with an estate agent, there's a high chance that someone proceedable will be able to move faster than you. We've actually brought in a service at Nicol Co called Ready to Buy, and that service is set up to allow you as vendors to get your property ready to go onto the market. So all the photos done, matchbook tours, floor plans, etc., all those bits sorted in a ready state then for when the right property comes on the market. That is an option, but my personal recommendation is to get your property onto the market, get some proceedable viewings in on your property and receive offers. Now, the scenario, if you do receive an offer on your property, you're never obligated to accept them. Firstly, it's a no sale, no fee industry. We typically don't charge a penny until you actually do complete on the transaction, so there's no financial outlay. But what we'd like to do for your buyer is advise them that they shouldn't be spending any money. So we'd say to your purchaser, if they made an offer to you that was an acceptable figure, that whilst you might feel it's an acceptable figure, that you're going to accept it subject to finding. So you then have your buyer in tow, you get them to instruct their solicitors, they spend no money, but they get their solicitors instructed, and it puts you into a procedural position. The minute the right property comes up for you, you're in a position where you can move very swiftly. Now you might question, if I did that, my buyer's probably not going to hang around for too long. That can be the case. In a buyer's market, that is the case, because they won't hang around because something else comes up that they fall in love with instead. But in this market where there's a shortage of stock, you will find you definitely take advantage of this because they don't have another option. Typically, there aren't 2 or 3 of the same property on the market at the moment. There's very few to choose from. So a purchaser is likely to pay you a reasonable figure for your property, possibly in excess of asking price we're seeing, and also give you the flexibility and the time that you need to go and find the right property. You do need to do it this way. I really do advise that this is the best way to go because you do need to get yourself into the foot race. When the right property comes on the market, you need to be at the front of the queue. And if you haven't got yours on the market yet, unfortunately, agents won't treat you with as much intention or as much priority. So those are 3 or 5 of my points that I'd like to make today. We do have a space here for some questions. As I said, it is fast. I talk fast because I'm energetic and I'm passionate about what I do. But I'll answer any questions if you do have any. So if you've got a scenario that's very much apparent or important to you right now, please do pop them in on the questions. I'll hover over the thing in a minute and just see if there's any that have come in, and then we can answer those. In terms of how we're finding the market, we opened up on the 25th. So we were allowed to come back into work on the 13th. Officially, the lockdown got lifted, but we as a company took the decision to take a little bit longer with coming back into work. We worked comfortably from home for the period of time. So during the lockdown, other than a couple of staff that were furloughed, we had pretty much the whole team working from home, each with their laptops, each with their phones, and they're probably keeping in touch with yourselves. And that has been very, very positive for us because we found since we were able to come back into the office, and we did so on the 25th, that things have really picked up from day dot. We were able to offer different types of valuations still. So if people are concerned about the safety, we completely understand that. We're able to do virtual valuations still, but our market appraisal process has changed significantly. We actually now come out to do a wander around your property first, but then we leave the property. So we don't stay and do our presentation as we normally would, but then again, using Zoom, we'll tie up with you for another occasion and go through our presentation. We can talk then about comparable properties, where we feel that property should be marketed, and ideally what we're going to be able to do to get your property sold. So let me have a look, see if there's any questions coming in on the chat. I haven't had any come in yet. So if you are here and you've got any questions you want to ask, please feel free to pop them in on the chat. Otherwise, I'll fill the space by talking about what we are finding at the moment. As I mentioned, we've changed our scenario in terms of doing viewings, and it's a great success as well. So right now we're proceeding with live stream viewings first on all properties. The government have said that they still prefer that virtual viewings are taking place first. And Rightmove have confirmed with a statistic that they're about to release next week that 60% of those people surveyed, similar to the 39% that were looking for the gardens and the outside space, 60% have now said that they want to see a video or a virtual opportunity to see the property before arranging a viewing. And I think that's very real because of the concerns about COVID-19, and possibly it's the digital age now where people expect to be able to have it at their fingertips. So we were delighted to be able to bring the live stream service over to the UK. It was something that we found was going on in Australia, and the benefits that we found from it since are we can do 10 or 15 viewings in the space of 20 minutes. So right now, I know that we've probably got a live stream, well, in fact, at 3 o'clock, we've got a live stream about to take place. And a live stream will be one of our agents with their phone doing a guided tour around the property. They have a chat box, so an interactive chat box with the applicants sat at home looking at the Gavel app, and the applicants can raise any questions through that chat box, and they'll go straight through to the estate agent. So I've had some great interaction with some of our clients. They wanted me to go back into the bathroom. They wanted me to go to the back garden and look back at the property. We can do all of that. You may have seen that we also have Matterport tours. And Matterport tours are another great tool to allow people to be able to view a property in the comfort of their own home. It's 4K, it's high resolution. It gives you a very good opportunity to see what the property offers, and you can do it at your own leisure. So that's really, really good. Okay, so got a question coming in. Yeah, we've had a question regarding giving a valuation price before proposed work has been done. And actually that's something that we enjoy doing, because we can be on the journey with you. We can also give you some advice in terms of what jobs to do and where not to spend your money. Often if you've got a budget in mind that you want to spend, we can tell you where best to place it. So we'd be more than happy to give you an indication of what your property would be worth at the end of the works. We'll give you an idea of what your property's worth at the current time as well. So you can put the two together. The two factors obviously make out whether you're going to make any increase in value on your property through time. I'm sure you'll have contingency budgets, because often things that you plan to do go a little bit higher. So it'd be nice for you to know what the property is going to be worth at the far end. And actually then once the work is done, we'd be happy to come back out and give you an up-to-date valuation there and then as well. So we'll be on the journey with you. The way that we work as an industry and the way that we work as an estate agent, we're kind of getting on to 11 years old now. We'll be 11 years old in October. So I'm only 36. We've got many, many years ahead of us, and we recognise that you need to have a friend in property. So that's the way that we work. We're happy to give the advice. Even if you don't plan to sell for 3 or 4 years, we're still happy to do it. This Worcester office that I'm sat in now in St George's Square, we've got just across the way our CRC, our Client Relationship Centre, and in there Molly is speaking to people who bought from us 5 years, 6 years, 7 years ago, and we go out and do what's called a property health check. Very, very useful for them, because if they have made improvements to their property, even though they don't intend on selling, it gives them the chance to have an up-to-date valuation on what their property is now worth. So hopefully that has helped there with your question, Stephanie. Just to make you aware, if you ever try and do an online valuation, we do offer them ourselves, and I'll be very, very honest with you and candid that the reason we do an online valuation is because people that are considering moving will be on our website. I mean, they are going to be looking for typically other properties, comparable properties, or the next move. And that online valuation tool is really there to attract and to get people's information so that we can then contact them. You can't trust the online valuation in all aspects, because they haven't seen what you've done to the property. They don't know specifically how close it might be to green space, local schools, and those items. All it does with an online valuation is it carries out a percentage price change based on when you bought it from. So nationwide, as an example, they do a house price index, and every quarter they track what has gone on with the market and whether it's increased or decreased in percentage terms. And that is essentially what the online valuation tool is going to do. It's just going to give you a quick run through on what's happened there. So hopefully that answered your question. And as I said, it's no obligation. If you do choose to have a valuation from us, there's no obligation to it. If there is any other questions, then please feel free to pop them into the question box there or into the chat box, and I can endeavour to answer them as we are all together. You might want to know what's going on with mortgage interest rates at the moment. So you'll know that the Bank of England reduced interest rates during the lockdown to 1.1. Really competitive interest rates at the moment. And I think the knock-on effect with that is that lenders have not been able to deliver on the amount of mortgage requests that have come in. So this week, actually, a lot of the 90% loan-to-value deals have been pulled. Now, if the press get hold of that, they'll make it into a negative story that the banks have gone into, a crisis situation. They can't lend any money, but it isn't that. The reason they pulled the 90% deals is because there's been too many people wanting them, and actually they can't deliver on the level of service. Many of them are still working from home, and if you can imagine, I mean, for us, it's been very hard working from home. We've delivered a good service, but when it comes to something like having a valuation, sorry, Stephanie, I've just seen your question about valuation. I'll answer that one in a minute. But when it comes to something like preparing mortgages, booking surveys, these are items that couldn't go on. These are items that couldn't take place at the moment. So that's why the lenders have pulled the 90% loan to value deals. There are still a couple doing them, which is HSBC and I believe the Post Office. So if you had a 10% deposit, there still is an opportunity, but we're expecting the lenders to bring them back to the market very shortly once they've been able to clear through this list of work. The other reason they don't want to do the 90% at the moment is because with some of their lending, they're doing what's called a drive-by valuation. So a surveyor's not actually attending the property from a COVID-19 safety point of view. They're doing a drive past the property. And if you had a large amount of equity, so if you had 40% of your own deposit and you only needed a 60% loan from the bank, that would mean that the lender's not really at risk of too much. So they might not even physically view those properties. They're going to do what's called a desktop valuation or a drive-by valuation. 90%, that kind of 10% deposit being put down and the rest being all the bank's money, that's when they're quite concerned. They want to make sure a surveyor has walked through the property first, which is again why they pulled that back. So question regarding valuations, there's no charge for valuations. It's free, it's no obligation, and the real benefit to you is obviously that you'll have an estate agent that's probably sold a number of properties in or around your road, giving you advice on what is comparable. When we come out to value a property, we obviously take on board the work that you've done to the property, but we look at what's selling around you as well. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be playing devil's advocate, really. We're going to look at it through a buyer's eyes. So if I was a buyer in your area and I was considering looking for a property like yours, what opportunities do I have? What properties are there out there on the market? And it's from that comparable evidence we'll be able to give you a marketing price. And if this relates to obviously the improvements of work you're going to do as well, we can tell you what the property is worth now based on what you're competing with and what your property would be worth then. So if you're planning to extend a kitchen, add a bedroom, convert a garage, we can tell you what your property is likely to be worth. And as I said, then we'd be more than happy to come back out to see you. And at the end, once you've done all the work, come and see how nice the property looks, and can we give you an update valuation then. I could chat forever. I could go on about anything you wish. So if anyone wants to drop a subject in there, as long as it's property related, I'm more than happy to assist. In terms of what I think might do with what might happen with the market this year, I think we were on to a great speed in terms of house price increase since the election was sorted and then Brexit deal was going to get underway. We found that the market started really, really strongly. Obviously, COVID-19 came from nowhere, and that has stopped things in a steady state. We haven't seen many price reductions, which you'd normally see when it comes to people being desperate to sell. Of course, it's not known what will happen when the furlough scheme ends, and unemployment may have a problem within not just the local area, but in the country. That might have an impact with a few people having to put their properties on the market. But I expect that throughout the course of this next year, we'll probably find that properties prices, whilst they went up probably 1 to 2% before March, they're probably going to level off now and stay pretty steady throughout the rest of this year. We're expecting next year that things will pick up again. Obviously, people's habits are going to start changing. Probably people are going to spend less time going into major cities to work, with the ability to be able to work from home. And I think in Worcestershire, we're very, very fortunate. We've got the Worcestershire Parkway that's recently opened. We've got great accessibility to places like Birmingham. You could get down to London, obviously using Worcestershire Parkway. I'm hoping that that will mean that there'll be a move of people out from those kind of central locations out to the countryside. And with everything that we have here, all the facilities that we have, then I think Worcester's in a very, very strong position to benefit from that. We have found that house prices since I opened the doors have been steadily on the increase, and why not? You know, Droitwich and Worcester have got a lot going for them, so very, very positive place to be. So I'm going to probably wrap it up there. If you do have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat box. I will have a recording of this so we can share those points with you again. But just to recap, focusing on the inside isn't the most important at the moment. People are searching for what's outside of properties. They're looking for that outside amenity space. That is very, very important to them. Trying it higher. Okay, I know people want to get the maximum possible price, but that isn't always best achieved by putting the price up for such a high figure at the beginning. And I know people say, look, we'll try it for a couple of weeks, then we'll drop it, but the damage can be done then. You could then be chasing down the market. So we really do recommend that you get the pricing accurate from the outset. And when you do that, you'll find that you'll get a high level of interest, get a high level of interest on your property, and you're going to achieve the maximum possible price. 99p instead of £1, as I called it. You don't want to go on the market with slightly under the 1,000. You want to be in both categories on portal searches, so round your number up. And I talked through a scenario on how that would work. Don't put it off. I think right now this shortage of stock is going to be a problem for buyers, not for you vendors. It will mean that you'll achieve a very good price on your property, because anyone that's wanting to move and in a really motivated state to move are going to pay you what's close to your asking price or above. We have in Droitwich been achieving over asking price so far since the pandemic and the lockdown lifted. So that's a really, really positive sign for what's going on with the market. And then waiting to find first. You've got to feel comfortable with this scenario. Don't think just because I'm an estate agent, I'm trying to get you on the market. You have to feel comfortable with this scenario. But we will always advise your purchaser what you're up to. So if you go on the market, we find you a purchaser, you accept a great offer on your property, you don't have to rush to go and find something. We'll keep your purchaser aware every step of the way, which is really important. The communication is really important, but it puts you in such a strong position to be able to buy the next property. As I mentioned, we have a ready-to-buy service. The ready-to-buy service, to give you a bit more of an explanation, is if you're on the market with us and you're sold, or if you're thinking of coming on the market with us and you've done everything to get it ready and signed a contract, we will become your buying agent in essence. So we'll go and search for the property you're looking for. We expect that it will be through our estate agency, but even if it's with another agent, we're still going to support you and help you. So we'll get the contact with those other agents and try and find you the right property. If you find a property with us, then with the best will in the world, it would be great for us to be able to find you a property through our doors, because it means we can keep it all under one roof. We have in-house sales progression. We have in-house mortgage advisors. We can assist with all those items. So we will do our very best to try and find you a property with us. So there you are. I hope you've enjoyed that. It's our first one. So thank you for joining me. Quite a weird thing to do, to look at a camera and talk, and I'm sure obviously you are there watching, but it's ever so strange to do this. So yeah, I do thank you for your time, and we will be giving further updates. We'll probably get a mortgage advisor in on a chat so you can put any questions to him. But if you have any questions after this that you'd like us to assist with, please don't hesitate to get in touch with one of the offices or drop me an email, and we'd be more than happy to assist, and hopefully we can help you in the future and help you through these times. Thanks ever so much for your time, and thanks for watching.